record, just so that everybody knows it is recorded. I'm going to share my screen with sound. And just to confirm that everybody can see that. Anybody?
Yes.
Ja, boss, kan het zien. Choosing
Cool.
to be positive.
Thanks, dankie julle. Yeah, well done. Right, ladies and gentlemen, formally welcome to today's session, where I would like to share with you a couple of thoughts or ideas around choosing to be positive in a volatile world. As people enter the session, up to another couple of minutes, I will admit them. So if I seem distracted, it's because I am just allowing or admitting them to the session. Right, so for those of you who don't know, I head up a company called Soldati. End of last year, we acquired a company called Soft Skill Solutions, where we also, I'm very excited to say, in the next month or two, we will be starting to present masterclasses around topical things in our new training center, which is next to my office, where I'm hosting this webinar from. And I will communicate those topics of those masterclasses to you in due course. Just a couple of housekeeping issues. First of all, yeah, thank you for joining us. Please mute if you don't mind, unless you want to ask a question at the end. I'll aim to leave 5 or 3 minutes of Q&A for us to have good discussions at the end. Please use the chat box as a last resort if you want to ask me a question. And then, as I said, the session is recorded. And please mail me if you want to have a copy. If you can't wait till sometime next week, when this recording will be uploaded as a vlog on our website as well. And please mail me with future topics, anything around leadership, self-leadership, topical things around emotional wellness that you would like me to cover going forward. Just one disclaimer. I, not for 1 second, profess to the fact that today is a magic wand moment where I'm going to fix your negativity and your pessimism, and all of a sudden you're going to be thinking positively about life, and that's the only way you're approaching things in life. No, but what I would love to do, and I hope to achieve, is to give you different insights, different perspectives around the topic that will assist you, or that will pave the way for you to do things differently. And if I can add, better differently. And just another disclaimer, and I thought about, should I include this morning when I finalized the presentation, and I am going to include it, just to show a little bit of vulnerability from my side. If you think I'm perfect as far as the topic is concerned, I'm far from that, but it's top of mind, and I'm working on it every single day. I have had a couple of challenges over the last 24 hours, and so I'm not only sharing the content today for you, but certainly also for me. And my invitation to you is to reflect in terms of the content. Hold up that proverbial mirror and ask yourself, how do I gauge my life against what's been discussed? And look at where the specific areas are that you can try and close the gaps between where you are currently and where you would like to be. And hopefully the content that I share with you would be helpful in that regard. And by the way, choosing to be positive in a volatile world does not mean choosing to be, or does not equate to choosing to be unrealistic in a volatile world, or to stick our proverbial ostrich neck in the sand. No. But a lot of this has to do with viewing life through a positive lens, viewing life and challenges in a different manner, to see opportunity and to get better outcomes. And literally, as opposed to seeing obstacles in life, to see the opportunity in those obstacles. Deepak Chopra, the writer, the author, and the alternative medicine guru, said obstacles are opportunities in disguise. Let's hear what Bethany Hamilton, who lost her arm as a surfer to a 4.3 meter tiger shark, what she and Nick says. He's got such a difficult surname, VUCA or something like that, who was born with no arms and no legs, has to say about exactly that. And if you can't hear the discussions, please, I did switch on sound, but please let me know and shout it out as quick as possible so that I can reshare.
You got to overcome your fear. You got to understand that obstacles are opportunities, and to reframe your mind and say, okay,
I'm never going to get to a point in my life where obstacles don't come.
Yeah.
But when an obstacle comes, I'm going to reframe my mind, not see it as a barrier.
Adapting to the situation. Like, I always think of just like, I look at my 13-year-old self and I'm like, whoa, she was so adaptable. And maybe I'm still that person today, but like, I just don't necessarily like view myself as always adapting. But like, I think being able to adapt to each situation that comes your way and like rethinking through it all.
And I think you can learn that. In fact, I challenge myself with even mind exercises. Apart from faith and my previous, you know, obstacles that I've overcome that I do like to remember, there's one thing that I also do is I actually look at an object and there's always 6 different ways almost in how you could do something. So for instance, like one of the mind exercises that I do is if you get that vase and you cut it from 2 o'clock to 8 o'clock, like diagonally.
Yeah.
And my challenge to the audience is, how do you put that vase, the top half without the bottom, that's crooked, how do you make it now straight? There's actually 6 or 7 different ways in how you can make it straight. From holding it to putting it back on, or to putting it on top of something else that's angled, to hang it from the roof. There's just different ways in how things can be accomplished.
Yeah.
And so the more and more you train your mind to look at it from different angles and not be disabled from feel like, I can't do this. Many people, I believe, Bethany, stop at 2 or 3 things. Well, maybe I could do this, and like, no.
Yeah.
Then I could do this. No, then I could do this. Most people give up at 2 or 3.
Okay,
people
so we
like
gotta
you and
give it
me
a
who are tenacious, solid
effort of like at least 6 different
5 or 6 tries,
like,
and 5 or 6
before we're
different
like,
ways,
okay, maybe
5
we
or
should
6
go.
different angles. That's how. And then when you do that and you challenge yourself that way, I believe that's how your personality and your maturity is like, oh, don't worry, I've seen obstacles before.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's what I feel like. That's when the people who have succeeded continue to excel. So when you can actually overcome an obstacle, see it as an opportunity, find success. That's why the rich get richer. That's why the successful people continue to get more successful. And that's why, though, the happier people get even more happy, because they've found what works for them in the smaller things. And when we can get through the smaller things, and you get the bigger things, and the bigger things, and the bigger things, and then eventually a lifestyle of overcoming obstacles.
You see, optimism is a choice. My dear motherly wife and I had a breakfast once, probably 7 years ago. And she's a supernatural person when it gets to optimism. She does not speak of anything in a negative way. She deals with negativity on her own, but she exudes optimism, and that's the way she approaches life. And when we had that breakfast, I made a comment, and I can't even remember what it was, but she looked at me as if the daggers came from her eyes, and I said, "What?" And she said, "You know what? You choose to be optimistic about life." And that, ladies and gentlemen, is when the penny dropped to me. Ultimately, it is a choice. Norman Cousins said, optimism doesn't wait on facts, it deals with prospects. And pessimism is a waste of time. And we have enough reason to be negative. I mean, the Turkish earthquakes, the Putin war, the Russian war, the Ukraine war that we're also worried about, our recovery after COVID, corruption, poverty, and there's more. And the idea is not to make you depressed, but just to create some perspective. Unemployment in our country that's just increasing. Our woes with regards to ESCOM, potholes, not only physically, but also psychologically, in terms of personal potholes that we are experiencing. But one of my thoughts in relation to that, or one of my mottos for this year is, stop worrying, or for that matter, stop being negative about the things that I cannot change in that moment. Because what's the sense in that? How does that serve me? It doesn't. Sends me down a rabbit hole, takes me to a very dark place. The lady that, since she was 19 months old, that couldn't hear, speak, or see, Helen Keller, this is one of her quotes: optimism is the faith that leads to achievement. Nothing can be done without hope and confidence. And if she, in her circumstances, could have such an optimistic view on life, who are you and I to view life through a negative lens? I'm going to talk to you about constructive friendships in relation to choosing to be positive in this volatile world that we're operating in. You see, negative friendships, they are like a ball and chain. They just pull you down. They will eventually cause you to drown. Where positive friendships talks to iron sharpens iron. It grows you, it builds you. So frankly, if you have negative friends, if they can't change their ways, get new friends, to be honest. And the same goes for our colleagues. At work, if you get people that you can't influence enough, that they want to see new ways of viewing life in a positive way, ditch them or apply the FIFO rule to them. Get them to fit in or fly off. We shouldn't be associated with people like that because it doesn't help in a tough, negative, volatile, and uncertain and complex and ambiguous world, the VUCA world that we live in. We don't need those people in our lives. How do we talk to others? We talk about things like work-life balance. It's just sayings. But note our vocabulary. What does work-life imply? We really have to analyze it. Work-life implies that we have work, we have our careers, and after our careers, after work, we get life. Thank goodness, I can live again. No. Just talk about balance. We don't need to talk about work-life balance. And it's something small, but yet we program ourselves in thinking that way and speaking that over ourselves and our careers. For example, we just start thinking about things in a negative manner. Another way of or looking at how we speak is to say, I have to. I have to go to work. I have to go to gym. No. Like my modelie always reminds me, you have to do 3 things. You have to go to the loo, you have to go to bed to sleep, to get rest, and you have to eat. That's it, frankly. The rest of the things you choose to do. I don't have to go to work. Thank goodness. I'm thankful for the fact that I want to come to work. Why? Because I would like to engage with very nice people, and I would like to add value to other people's lives and be on the receiving end of that. I don't have to go to gym. I want to go to gym because I want to feel better about myself and try and shed the 3 or 4 kgs that I've gained the last couple of months. I have to. No. I want to. Yes. And how do you talk to yourself? What do you say to yourself? Such a powerful tool in self-talk. And as soon as you realize that your self-talk starts to spiral into negativity, then I would suggest you say stop. Stop, because typically we realize it. We start realizing when that actually happens. And that you then psychologically stop and physically make a U-turn and change your environment. And go take a walk to the canteen or around the block or whatever the case might be. And then ask yourself, is what I'm saying to myself the real truth? Or is it just my truth? Which is not actually the real truth. And this is what Dr. Phil says about it when he posts 4 questions that challenge your negative. So the point is, as soon as you start thinking negatively, and we do realize it once again when we do, typically, ask yourself those 4 questions. And in answering them, you'll get a better understanding of, is it worth pursuing this thinking pattern? And what does our thoughts look like? Marcus Aurelius, the last great Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, he said, our life is what our thoughts make it. So again, when you realize you're thinking not great thoughts, stop thinking bad thoughts, negative thoughts at least. And if you can, think good thoughts. And if there's one reason, if you can't find any other reason to get yourself to think positively and being appreciative of what you've got, think of privilege. And I know it's all relative, but I can assure you, all of us on this call, we're privileged. William Penn said, the secret of happiness is to count your blessings while others are adding up their troubles. The reality is that on our African continent, more than 550 million people, according to the statistics, have to live off less than 36 Rand a day. You try and figure that one out. Roof over my head, transport, food, clothing for myself and for my kids, and I can carry on. Less than 36 Rand a day. I want to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, just coming to the close of the content that I would like to share before we get to Q&A, that hard skills versus soft skills are not that different. Like we are certified to be an accountant or an engineer or a doctor, and we've got a fancy certificate to hang against the wall, we don't get certified in being optimists. We don't get certified in being emotionally intelligent or having a specific level of self-confidence, etc., etc., etc. The reality is, as far as soft skills are concerned, we need to use tools and methods and techniques, of which I've hopefully, in relation to the topic, have shared with you some, and we need to certify ourselves. Like any hard skills, soft skills, we need to practice. We need to practice day in and day out. And the point is, we should not only practice, we should reflect and we should practice. See how I can improve more and reflect and practice. And by doing that, we increase our proficiency and our ability to conquer and to master these soft skills areas. Because choosing to be positive is not only, I think, an intrapersonal skill, but certainly also an interpersonal soft skill. Zig Ziglar said, people often say that motivation doesn't last. Well, neither does bathing. That's why we recommend it daily. And hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm finishing off, I have given you some motivation to do things differently, better differently, and in choosing to be positive in the rough, volatile world that we are currently living in. I wrote a book on this stuff. If you're interested, you can get it from various outlets. And as far as future webinars are concerned, end of next month, that's the topic, improving self-confidence and stepping out of my comfort zone. Learning and living good habits is the one in August. And the one in September is not called Please Let Me Know. I'm inviting you to please let me know if there are anything, like I said in the beginning, that you would like me to list as a topic and to be able to present it in September. If I don't get anything, then obviously I'll choose my own in what I think might add value to your lives. And please, when I send you the invitations, please forward it to friends, family, colleagues that you feel might benefit from this. That is officially the end. And I thank you for being here and for joining me today. And I am going to stop sharing. Please join me on LinkedIn. I'm very close to 500 users or connections or people as part of my network, and I don't go out actively and try and increase it. But on occasions like these, I ask people to please join my LinkedIn network, because I'm almost at 500, and as you know, then it goes to 500 plus, and then it sounds better. All right, I'm stopping to share. Please, if you can unmute and switch on your cameras, I would love to have good discussions with you. Tell me if that helps. Any comments, criticism, feedback, questions? Now is the time. And let's see who can get out of their comfort zone first, talking about that topic of next month, to switch on their cameras. Point, it's my pleasure. It was great. It is great still having you. Any questions? Any comments? Nothing. Going. If you wouldn't mind, just switch on your cameras and let's just unmute, so we at least could say goodbye to each other. And I wish you a wonderful weekend and a pleasant and restful one.
Thank you.
Maybe I got a question.
Alvin, go for it. We still have a couple of minutes. Shoot.
Okay, so Mark Manson says that reality bites. I mean, that you can't be positive all the time. What's your opinion on that?
I agree, you can't be positive all the time because you are human. But you can get into the habit of like, in terms of the content that I've shared with you, to ask yourself, but hang on, can I not approach this differently? And can I not see the opportunity in the obstacles that I'm facing? And yeah, like I've shared with you, always ask yourself, is it worth my while to pursue my negative approach towards something? On Sunday, I did a reel, which would go out next week on social media, where I describe the fact that since something has arisen, I'm starting to think in this case negatively about something. And till I actively address it to get out of that mode, the longer the time frame of the distance I have, and I keep on with this pattern of negativity in this case, you would agree, I hope, that surely it's to your detriment and to the people around you as well, as opposed to addressing it as far as you possibly can and to try and shorten that distance. It will occur, absolutely, but try and shorten that distance between when it occurs and until you've addressed it, so you can move on and benefit from that process of shortening that timeline.
Yeah, I still differ. I'm not a negative guy as such. I'm a kind of an opportunist, but I think the maybe is the other side to say, how do you handle that negativeness? Eh? I mean, I'm not the expert in this field. I'm an engineer, so but if you start to talk about awareness and mindfulness in that situation, and you can handle it, that might get you out of it. But I don't think it's just a switch.
No, it's not. It's not, but it's a question of, I think, almost want to say reprogramming the way you look at it, and that you look at negative events or obstacles in your life, and try and not by default dwell in the negativity, but to try and focus on the upside in terms of what is possible as opposed to what I'm currently have to face in life.
Yeah, last comment for me, it's like living on the edge. I'm like those first two guys. So to me, it's living on the edge. Every morning I need to wake up and just remember myself I can easily fall off the edge, because I don't live in a comfort zone. Every day I live in that situation and it drags you down. So it's not that easy.
No, it's not. It's not, but I want to ask you, upon reflection, is there in your situation not something that you can do, just generally speaking, differently, to step back and say, hang on, because I'm going through a similar situation where I've got lots on the go, and then I need to ask myself, can I not pull in other resources? Can I not look at things differently? Can I not prioritize differently, etc., in order to get off that treadmill and that just-in-time mentality, I almost want to say, which sometimes becomes addictive, as opposed to stepping back and taking life a little bit calmer and at a slower pace.
Yeah, I still haven't the solution. I've even tried Barack Obama and only wear gray suits, then you don't have to spend your mental energy. It's a mental thing. You have to have mental energy, and I think that's the challenge. You showed the COVID stuff. We don't realize the impact of mental energy. If you have the energy, you can take on anything, because you're bright, you up, you want to think about things 6 ways differently. But if you're mentally tired, it's hard. I mean, it adds up. So I don't have a recipe. I'm like the cliche in what's that, Sleepless in Seattle. Every morning I wake up and I tell myself to breathe, and after a few days I don't have to tell myself that anymore.
And then
so
it feels
like discipline.
Yeah, and then it feels like Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
So yeah, ultimately I think it starts with self. People like I can tell you as much as I would like to, but ultimately you need to take and use what works for you in order to do things differently better.
No, thanks. That's why coming back to the point, what works for me, guidance would help as well. So maybe something on handling how to handle the negative, getting out of the negative.
Yeah, remember I said in the beginning, it's not a magic wand.
No, I know that.
Thanks, Alwyn. Right. On that note, I wish you all the best, and I hope to see you guys next time again for the next topic.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Hekkie. Cheers,
Thanks a lot.
everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers, bye.